Hi everyone. Today I'm going to be talking to you about one of my most requested topics, free buzzing. This is the act of buzzing your lips without your mouthpiece. Like that. My first note about free buzzing is that it is very taxing on the muscles of your embouchure. If buzzing is like weightlifting for your lips, then free buzzing is even more strenuous than that. So you really need to take it easy and start slow when you're using this as a tool. In the Brass Gym book, Pat Sheridan and Sam Palafian wrote that for every 30 seconds of buzzing, you should be taking a 1 minute rest. For every 30 seconds of free buzzing, you should probably be resting even more than that. So remember to listen to your body and incorporate rest when you're doing this. The first way that I use free buzzing is as part of a warm up. It can obviously get your lips and your air going in a really intense way, but it also has an even more important function. It connects your lips to your ears. This is, of course, also true of mouthpiece buzzing, and usually I use mouthpiece buzzing as an initial warm up. But free buzzing can be a bridge into that. For example, if I'm playing a flow study like the Jacobs tune, also called Turn Studies or Beautiful Sounds, whatever you call it, I might free buzz the first part of it, then buzz the tune, then play the tune. As with all buzzing that I do, I'm going to glissando everything and I'm going to breath attack everything. This promotes smooth movement between pitches in the way that the slots of the instruments don't always let us do all the time. And the breath attack is so that the tongue can neither help nor get in the way of our motion between those notes. So the Jacobs tune starts with a turn, and that's what I'm going to free buzz. So for the free buzzing part of that type of close movement between pitches, in my opinion, is one of the most effective uses of free buzzing. There are also a couple of exercises from the Carmine Caruso trumpet method that I use as warm-ups, especially when I'm trying to build endurance. These involve glissing and bending pitches in the mid-register, moving from lips to mouthpiece to instrument. So they'll start at your middle open note, F on the euphonium, and they'll go. And it'll just move from F chromatically down to low B flat. That's another exercise that I find helpful in just using free buzzing to dial in and focus in on pitches in the middle, comfortable part of your range that you can then take and build upon for the rest of your warm up and your playing for that day. The second way that I use free buzzing is to promote efficiency in the low register. For many of us, especially for tuba players, we are sometimes capable of playing low register notes without actually buzzing that note. Sometimes this isn't the worst thing in the world. I don't always advocate for overthinking technique in the low register. In fact, I never want to really overthink technique in the lower register. If it sounds good, if it doesn't hurt you, great. But we all have a limited air capacity, and sometimes we would like for that air to take us a little further within a given musical phrase. For example, here are a couple of measures from Phil Snedeker's Low Etude number 4. This is kind of a tricky lick that I would like to play musically, and sometimes I run out of air. So I start by buzzing on the mouthpiece, maybe with some resistance in the form of your finger covering up a little bit of the back of the mouthpiece. And then I also just free buzz to see if I can actually get that frequency on my lips alone. Again, I'm mainly focusing on one note or one interval at a time. This is about as long of a phrase as I would do free buzzing. And what you'll find is if you do this, you may find yourself buzzing with your jaw kind of shut in order to get the pitches to actually come out. It's a little easier to free buzz if you shut your jaw. So I understand why this happens. It might be a good way to just start getting any frequency to come out of your lips in that register. But in the long term, it's not helpful because your jaw is in a different position than it would be when you're playing. When you're playing, your jaw is going to be more open. So I just go the route of trying to get it to happen, try to get the free buzz. If you need to start with a closed jaw, fine, but then open it up gradually. And then even if it doesn't work well or it doesn't sound great with your jaw open, just trying it that way, trying to get a little bit closer to the way that you would have your jaw when playing. Again, it's buzzing. Pretty much all of it sounds weird or bad. We're using it as a tool. So you want to try to mimic as much as you can the jaw placement while you eventually will be playing. The third way that I use free buzzing is similar to the way that I use it in the low register, but in the high register. Again, we're going to focus on really only one note at a time here so that we don't destroy our chops. The high register can be difficult for low brass players because the larger mouthpiece means that we don't always know what's going on inside the mouthpiece. Younger players often develop unhelpful habits in the high range because they're trying to play high notes, sometimes without guidance or instruction. You just see a note in your music in front of you, you realize you have to play it, you do what you have to do. Many of us just, when we're younger, we do whatever it takes to make that high note come out. Sometimes that means jamming the face against the mouthpiece or changing the angle of the embouchure. So I often encounter college students who are pretty set in whatever habits they have developed, and those habits are starting to fail them. So we end up working together to deconstruct their technique into its component parts, then build it back up, hopefully stronger. So one of the ways that we do this is by trying to answer the question, are you really buzzing the note that you think you're buzzing? So we take a troublesome note, say high B flat, if that's the note that we're struggling to get, and we try to breath attack it. So if that's difficult, we start from the ground up trying to build that note. First we hum it, then we free buzz it, then we buzz it, then we play it. So the idea here is to build the student's embouchure in the most organic way for them. It can be different for every person. So I try to stay away from, personally as a teacher, telling a student exactly how to do something. We have tips and tricks that we can try. But the idea here is that if you go through this process, by the time you get back to playing it on the instrument, that note is usually in a slightly different position than where you started. So that high B flat, a lot of students will struggle with free buzzing for the first time. And this is one of the reasons why it is a valuable tool, is because one reason you might be struggling is because you were not buzzing that note or near that note to begin with. You were buzzing something like a G and squeezing and pressing against the mouthpiece, and you were getting a high B flat to pop out, but you weren't actually buzzing that note. Another reason why it might not work is because it's really intense and your muscles aren't used to it. But the good news about free buzzing and sort of building up technique like this is I think you can trust that if you are free buzzing that pitch, if you can get it to come out, then that is generally what you should be putting into the mouthpiece. With your particular lip density and your particular physiology, you have to figure out a way to make that note vibrate. And if you can do that, then chances are once you put it in the mouthpiece, once you put the mouthpiece in the horn, that it will be at least slightly easier, slightly more zeroed in for you. So it takes, on an exercise like this, it takes a lot of repetitions with rest, because of course, once you start playing, you forget about the exercise, you forget about the technique that you built up, and you revert to your old habits. But in the high register, I would use free buzzing, again, in a really limited way to spot check notes. And in this way, it can at least help to promote an awareness of that technique and of your particular way of going about it that can translate to more healthy habits in the long term. So, those are the three main ways that I use free buzzing in my personal practice and instruction. I'd be interested in hearing how you use it and whether these ideas are helpful or not. And remember, please don't hurt yourself free buzzing. When in doubt, take it slow and remember to rest. Happy practicing.